What's up, guys? We're right back here on Game of Inches. This is episode 14. I'm Andrew, of course. He is Jake. And lots of exciting news, lots of exciting podcasts to drop. If you haven't checked it out already, make sure you check out our interview with CFL player Brett Lowther. It was an outstanding interview. I had a lot of fun doing it. What's up, Jake? I'm sure you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, man, and that was a great conversation. I like I said a couple times, I know Brett's brother, so it was nice to talk to him and actually get to meet him. Very interesting guy, man. Very mentally well built. I think that's something that, like, when I've been talking to my friends or my family, that one thing that I got from the interview is how mentally strong the guy is, and I feel like that's a big thing you need in life, right? And that was pretty cool to see, like, how he kind of had his trials and tribulations starting out in the league, and now in March he's talking about maybe having an NFL tryout. So it just shows you keep putting that work in and you keep that strong mental, anything's possible.
Definitely. So on episode 14, we're going to be talking about Tiger Woods and his accident. Just super tragic to hear about. We're going to touch on the Canadiens firing head coach Claude Julien and associate coach Kirk Muller, and Dom Ducharme gets promoted to head coach. We're talking about Artemi Panarin and his kind of ongoing, I guess, issue or what's going on with Putin. That should be an interesting discussion. Of course, Carson Wentz gets traded to the Colts in exchange for some picks. So, Jake, let's start things off with our first discussion here. Tiger Woods accident. We heard it's a highway that causes many accidents. There are a lot of people say that if you're not familiar with California, there are certain highways that are unbelievable, but we know that he's had so many surgeries and a lot of pain. So the first thing people think is like, oh my God, is he okay? Obviously, there's a lot of overreactions and question marks. What's going on with him? I know you were kind of saying that yesterday, but it's hard for people not to do that when pictures are being released like the ones that we saw. And then I feel bad for him because people, their first reactions are, what medications were he on? What was he on? You know, what was he taking? And that, to me, those accusations, it feels bad to hear that. It's shitty to hear people say that right away. But you know, a lot of comparisons, right? People thinking back to how they felt with Kobe passing, and all of a sudden now Tiger, you're hearing him, he's in a really bad accident. Everyone's heart just kind of stops.
Yeah, man, I wasn't quick to overreact, and like I'm not really trying to be funny, but like when I saw the picture of the car flipped over, there was one picture that had all of his luggage like perfectly lined up. And like, I don't know why, to me, that was just like, all right, like he's probably hurt and like he's in the hospital, obviously, but like he's not dead. Like he wasn't dead at the site. Like no one just like lines up a dude's luggage that's dead. Like you're trying to get Tiger to the hospital if you think he's dead. So like right then I knew he was fine. The pills thing and the prescriptions and like the drinking and the highways, that for me, I can't lie, that was one of the things that I thought of at first was the pills. And it wasn't so much because like the history, it was more so like the back injuries that he's had, and he's recently coming off of one. So like it's not completely implausible that like he might have been on something to help the pain, not like saying he's an addict or anything like that. But back injuries are tough and like they don't just go away, right? So the big thing for me was just to make sure he was all right, don't overreact, and let's just get the info as it comes out. And in terms of the info that came out, I'm not going to lie, I actually am pretty nervous that we're not going to see Tiger golf again. At his age, and everybody knows at the pro golf level, like the movement and like a swing path, like it's all hips, knees, like lower body torque and upper body, right? So Tiger's back was already screwed up. So in my opinion, I don't know this for a fact, I think he might have been compensating for that with his legs, like trying to, you know, he can't maybe turn as far, but maybe he can get his legs into it a little bit more and try and generate that power. But for me, now he's going to be in his 40s with pins and rods through his knees. And it's just, I'm a little worried that I don't think we're going to see him golf again. And I don't know if anyone's even really thought of that, but that was the second thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, and for the record, like when I mentioned the whole thing with like prescription drugs, like I'm not trying to be like a dick. Like I'm not saying like people shouldn't have thought that. All I'm saying is that it sucks that that's what comes to our heads. Like I thought about it too, man. Like I'm not, you know, saying anything bad about anyone thinking that.
It's history.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have the exact same mindset as you. It just sucks that that's kind of what comes to mind. But crazy reaction. I guess it just goes to show again the fact that what these people mean to our lives, not just to the sport, right? Like, I mean, think about it like this. Right now, sport is considered to be essential workers. You know, we have NBA, NHL, all these sports going on. MLB had a full season. NFL had a full season. These are guys that are considered to be right now essential workers for several different reasons, but they mean so much to people. Like they brighten your day following sports. Like you look up to athletes. So it's just crazy to think like nobody even knows this guy personally.
Yeah.
And everybody is so touched by it and so impacted. But for more reaction on this, make sure you check out the Life Below Par podcast. The guys will definitely have their reaction and some in-depth discussion about it. I know Luke's a huge diehard Tiger fan.
Yeah, make sure also to check out episode 3. I think will be out by the time this comes out. So make sure to check that out. The boys are having a lot of fun. The episode 3 is going to be a hoot. Me and Andrew were looking at some of the footage, and we'll say the boys had fun. But yeah, honestly, just to go back to Tiger, just before we go off, like you said, I don't want anyone to think that like, you know, like we think he's an addict or anything like that. It was just obviously like when there's a history, like that's something that comes to the forefront of your mind. And that was just something that I thought of quickly, but I'm happy he's okay. And I hope we can see him golf again. It's just hard for me to see him at this age to go through another recovery, like in a big one, and to be out there and compete at a high level, because Tiger really hasn't been competing at a high level as of late. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Obviously we hope he's all right, but definitely make sure to check out the Life Below Par podcast to see more reaction.
Yeah, and his son too. Before we move on, I have to mention his son. Obviously, he has a family. Some things are just bigger than sport itself. We'll come right back here and touch on Montreal Canadiens moving on from head coach Claude Julien.
The Full Circle Realty team specializes in commercial, residential, and property management by taking a distinctive entrepreneurial approach to help clients and customers find their next investment. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate in 2021, contact the team today at info@fullcirclerealty.ca to learn more about buying and selling homes in 2021.
All right, let's rock here. Let's get right back into it. Game of Inches, episode number 14. Claude Julien, gone, released as head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Kirk Muller is gone. Jake, I do recall we were at Halifax Sports Bar 2 weeks ago, and I said to you, they got to get rid of Claude Julien. And you said, that's the worst take you've ever had. That's what you said to me. That is the worst take that I've ever had. So maybe you still believe it's a horrible take, but the fact is it's happened, and he's gone. Dominic Ducharme has now been named the interim head coach, and Alex Burrows has been called up from the Laval Rocket, will now serve as an assistant coach for the Montreal Canadiens. Where do we start? Where do I start with this? Where do I start? I mean, this is where I'll start here. Where do you blame, right? You can't sit and scratch, 9 players. You can't bench a new player every single game. You can't tell Carey Price that just because he had a couple weak goals in that, he's being replaced by Jake Allen. The power play has been horrible. Kirk Muller, he was responsible for that power play. It's a 56 game season. People are reacting the way they're reacting because they think that it was such a short losing streak that he shouldn't have been fired yet, or because he isn't the reason, or because Carey Price hasn't been playing like himself, or because the third and second line hasn't been playing great, or because Philip Deneau has been awful as a first line center. There's so many reasons that we can create, but Jake, we see it in sports all the time. The coach takes the backlash. And these coaches they're not coaching for free, man. They're making money too. They got M's behind their contracts. It's not like they're just out there having fun, right? So Claude Julien's a great guy. We know what happened with him when he was in the bubble last year. I wish him all the best. I hope he's great health-wise. And it sounds like with Ducharme, the first remarks that I heard and the quotes coming out there with him is that it's mixed emotions, right? He said he learned a lot from Claude Julien. It was his first time ever being on an NHL bench, and he was an assistant coach for Claude Julien. So now he's kind of replacing him. So he feels kind of bad that he lost 2 colleagues and 2 friends, but obviously he's happy to be the head coach now. I guess the first take that I'll make, and you and I are talking about off air about how we can't wait to be in studio. I would definitely be a lot more animated and jumping around here if we were in studio. But the first take I'll make, it's old school versus new school, Jake. Right? This is new school. Dominic Ducharme, much younger coach, much more flexible coach, a coach willing to make more changes on the go, a coach that coached a junior team that was potentially one of the best junior teams that will be created. You know, we had the pleasure of watching the team that Ducharme was responsible for, with McKinnon, with Drouin, with Marty Furk, with Fournier, with all of these outstanding players, Mackenzie Weegar, who now plays for Florida. So many great players that he was responsible for. Then he won a gold medal at the World Juniors, along with his President's Cup trophy, his Memorial Cup trophy. For people saying that he's only there because he's French speaking, that's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. I mean, he definitely is decorated. He is, worthy of this job. The question is for me, does he really get thrown into this situation and then kind of feel a little flustered, right? Should this have been an off-season move? You know, after the season's over, you release Julien and you say, okay, Ducharme, it's yours. Because let's not forget, Jake, the Habs had all week off last week. Now for the rest of the month and the next 2 or 3 weeks, they're playing every second day. So how much time does Ducharme really get to implement his new strategies, his new, tactics, his new line combos, and what he expects from the players? That's what I'm really curious about. But it sounds like right now, early on, puck support is going to be a huge thing. Counter-attacking is going to be a huge thing. And, clearing the zone a lot better. So we'll see what he can implement. But new school versus old school is what I really, really do call this. Think about it. We've got Josh Anderson, Nick Suzuki, Jonathan Drouin, Jake Evans. Those guys aren't older veteran players, Jake, right? They're younger players. And I think that it's a good fit to have a coach like Ducharme who's used to working with these younger players.
Yeah, honestly, man, you made a bunch of great points there, and it had a bunch of good talking points, to be honest. First one I'll say is obviously I don't agree with it's not that I don't agree with it. I do get it. It's just like you said, it's a 56-game season, and personally, I think people are hitting the panic button. Like, Montreal is a quality team. Like, people are like, there's so much recency bias in sports that, like, I find especially in the Canadian markets with hockey, the fans have so much recency bias. Like, it's always like, what have you done for me lately? Instead of like, what have you done? So like, I think it's a little unfair, but it is what it is. That's the nature of the beast, right? You're getting paid millions of dollars and you're expected to produce. And if, ownership and the GM don't think you're producing, then they're within their right to fire you and, hire whoever they please. To go on to Ducharme, I really like the hiring. Like you said, obviously we got to see what he could do with a bunch of talent here in Halifax. He had Nate, he had Drouin, he had Mackenzie Weegar, he had all the boys. But it's going to be interesting because Montreal's a completely different type of team than he's ever been a head coach of. Like, going back to the World Juniors, that was a really highly skilled team. Halifax is a really highly skilled team. Montreal is a highly skilled team, but I think they're more of a work team. Like, like Deneau's not your traditional first line center, right? You guys, Suzuki, he's good, but he can't be expected to shoulder the load down the middle by himself, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what you guys do. There's going to be a lot of changes, I think. I don't see how you fire Julien and things stay the same. Like, I think Ducharme's going to be under a little bit of pressure to show something different. I think a lot of people, especially from the Montreal fans that I know, and I don't think me and you have ever talked about this, but actually we might have at the bar. People think Julien was too defensive. They didn't really like that, he was playing these defensive style games. They wanted to be more attacking. They wanted to have a quicker style of play, and they want to see more goals. And Ducharme's been able to show that throughout his career outside the NHL. But the last point I wanted to touch on, I think you made a really good point, and I don't know if it's a counterpoint, but maybe kind of like answering the question, was you said, why wait the week when they're off? And then, now we're back into it and you're playing every second day, and you're talking about game plans and systems and stuff like that, which is completely true. Like, you're going to be doing that on the fly. But for me, I think more of, Ducharme's a French-speaking coach in Montreal, so automatically high expectations. I think that the every 2 days, that kind of limits how much time the media has to sit around and kind of probe at Ducharme, right? If you do that during the weeks, during the off week, you're still obligated to have media requirements. And realistically, he could have had to answer like a million questions about Julien getting fired. What are you going to do differently? And now that they're getting to go into every second day playing a hockey game, he gets to just focus on his job and focus on the things that he wants to bring from game to game to game. And I don't think I don't think either way Montreal would have missed the playoffs. And for me, it wouldn't have mattered if they finished 1, 2, 3, or 4. Like, obviously home ice would be a big advantage, but flying in Canada isn't all that crazy in terms of time. And the NHL was talking. Are they still talking about a bubble for the playoffs?
I think so, or at least a few contained cities,
cities, that's even you know what I mean. That's even better. The home ice really doesn't matter in terms of last change if we're in a bubble. So Montreal could have finished anywhere, and I don't think they would have fell out of the playoffs with Julien or without Julien. So to me, it was a pointless firing in my opinion because I'm not a fan. But I understand what the team's doing and the direction they're trying to go. I think they're trying to get, like you said, more youth involved, more speed, and they're trying to catch up to this newer NHL style where it's a lot of transition hockey, like getting the puck out of your zone, puck support, and that's quickly attack. So it's going to be interesting to see how you guys react. I'm a big believer in teams always have an immediate reaction to a coach being fired. So I think Montreal might go on a little bit of a heater here, and they might go on a couple win streak or at least play a lot better. But it'll be interesting when we get 10 or 15 games into Ducharme coaching, and let's see if they regress back to where they were with Julien, or they have a new status quo, or they meet or they go above expectation. So it's going to be interesting over the next month to see what goes on with the Canadiens.
Definitely, yeah. And one player I forgot to mention was Kotkaniemi. Everybody in the world, including our buddy Harry, Senators fan, and so many guys in our group chat, all our buddies are saying, wow, it's hilarious to see how Brady Tkachuk was drafted over him. And, everyone's rankings come out, right? Everyone's rankings always come out after the draft. But the Habs needed a center, and they needed someone that was bigger and taller, and they wanted a sniper. And the fact is that it's so much easier to say, yeah, hey, look, this guy was drafted behind him, and there's no way he should have been. But I think that Ducharme is going to play Kotkaniemi way more. If you look at the minutes that Kotkaniemi was getting, it was ridiculous. He made a few mistakes, but he wasn't confidence is a huge thing with these young kids, and you need to have that confidence. He wasn't giving it to him at all. He wasn't giving it to him.
That's a great point, because if you look at Julien's style of hockey, he can't trust someone like Kotkaniemi if they're going to be making mistakes, right? So Ducharme, obviously, like you said, is a little bit more flexible. It'll be exciting to see if he lets him free a little bit more, lets him, not necessarily think offense first, but maybe try to prioritize offense a little bit more and try and get him on a line with a couple guys that maybe are defensively responsible, and he can have that free-flowing game, which Julien really wasn't giving him.
And he didn't even get a minute of ice time in the overtime against Ottawa. 1 minute. I mean, it's just ridiculous. He didn't even get 20 seconds. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think back to our playoff series last year against Philadelphia. Kotkaniemi, without a doubt, without even a question in his mind, and he's younger than me, and obviously both of us, he skated right up to a guy, dropped the mitts, grabbed him by the jersey, and started throwing like he's been fighting his whole life in hockey. I mean, he's got balls too. I don't know. I think you see the style of play that he plays with, and when he's smiling, when he's happy, that's when he's playing his best. Everybody has their own mentality, right? Sometimes even pick up ball, you can see with some of your friends, or how they act, or if someone's serious all the time. I think I play better when I'm serious. You know what I mean? I'm always I'll miss shots if I'm just goofing off too much. But Kotkaniemi seems like he needs to have a smile on his face and feel comfortable out there. So interested to see what happens here. I don't want to make this comparison because it's obviously completely different teams. This kind of reminds me of the whole Babcock and Sheldon Keefe situation. It's bringing in a new younger guy. It's getting rid of an older guy that was successful before you and I had hair on our balls. And now we're actually looking at a guy coming in and he's newer. He's fresh. He's literally a new coach to the league. He's motivated and he has, new information to bring, I guess. So it's interesting, man, because if you look at the age gap between Ducharme and Julien, it's pretty big.
Definitely. And I think Julien, part of his philosophy, obviously bringing Ducharme in, was I need someone younger with fresher ideas that can help me with my ideas. Mm-hmm. So I think that also leads into why Ducharme was the immediate interim head coach. Like Kirk Muller, obviously, I think resembled a lot of Julien's styles. I think he was also a defensive style coach. Like that was his first thought process was defense. And I think Ducharme was the offensive guy with the fresh ideas. He was, breakout plays, like in zone plays. So I feel like the organization knew that, and that's why they were probably comfortable letting Julien go, because they were like, well, we want more offense. We know he's been taking care of the offense, and he's seen how Julien likes to run his defense. So maybe he can find some sort of combination that works that Julien couldn't. But I'm excited, man. And obviously I have the bias, and you probably have it too, that he coached in Halifax and he gave us some of our greatest moments for hockey. Like we don't have a pro hockey team here. We don't have any pro team here. So, well, shout out the Wanderers. I'm sorry. The disrespect. Thunderbirds. Yeah, they're not playing this year. So I'm not going to count them until they're back playing. I know the Wanderers are coming back. So CPL didn't take no time off, bro. CPL had a bubble and played through it. But no, back to Ducharme in the bias that I'm going to have. He gave us some of our greatest moments growing up watching hockey here. So obviously, I know for me, I wish him nothing but success. And I would love to see Ducharme Habs versus Colorado Avalanche and a final, and you guys lose. But hopefully you lose in 7 and it's in quadruple OT and it's super close and we have a good time. But I wish him nothing but the most success, and I hope the best for the guy.
Yeah, North Division's getting even more and more competitive. On our next couple episodes, we'll have to do another rundown of the NBA standings and the NHL standings, because they're starting to mix up a little bit here, and we're seeing Edmonton's getting hot, man. They're getting red hot, so it's going to be.
I said they were going to come number 1. They're not going to. I don't think the Leafs are going to fall off.
Defensive hockey. They're winning low-scoring games.
They're figuring out how to win, and that's what matters. They're starting to realize that I don't need to win every frigging game 7-4 or 7-2 or whatever. They just need to win hockey games. And I think and honestly, the boys were hating in the group chat, but I think Mike Smith was a huge coming back into the net, absolutely huge. That guy has had some success in the NHL. He's established. He's been around forever. Yeah, so what? He's a little bit older. He's a character. He brings a fieriness to a team that looked like they were missing some sort of leader like that, right? And Koskinen can't be trusted all the time. At least with Mike Smith, you're going to have streaks where he's going to be on point, maybe the best goalie in the NHL for a week, and then he might fall off. But with Koskinen, we were never going to see that. We were never going to see him take over the NHL for a week. And I think that Mike Smith coming back was big for them. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do, because if they get their shit together, they're going to give anybody problems with McDavid and Draisaitl. It doesn't matter. It's just if those two are clicking and they can keep the puck out of their net, they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
And sorry, one last thing. I haven't been giving him a shout out, and me and you are going to do our Olympic projected teams. And Darnell Nurse, I think Darnell Nurse should be on the Olympic team going to the Olympics for the next Olympics coming up. This guy is having an outstanding season, and it's not talked about enough.
One of the most slept on defensemen right now, 100%. Yeah. Definitely no arguments there. Let's get into more of a soft, sensitive topic here. Artemi versus Vlad. What a topic we have here, man. If you have any apps on your phone to cover sports, if you watch sports, if you see anything in the sports world related to hockey, you got an alert at some point that Artemi Panarin was taking a leave of absence from the New York Rangers, dealing with some issues, Jake, that would stem from back home. Denied all of the allegations towards him, and everything was kind of coming towards him. And I think that, I guess I'll leave it. I'll send it over to you. But based on my knowledge, everything that was being said about him, he and everybody thinks, and his family and everyone helping his situation, it's all political. It's all because of his views, all because of his family views. There's also quite a bit of a timely manner that all these accusations came right around the same time that he started making these remarks. His family started making these remarks. So he said that he's like, no way, he denied all of the allegations. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I have a few things to read aloud that were just some quotes, but I'll throw it to you to see your thoughts.
Yeah, man. When I saw this, I obviously didn't know very much about it. So when I saw it, I was like, what the hell? Like, that's so random. But then I started diving in, and like you said, like his parents and Artemi himself believe that Putin shouldn't be the leader of the country. And that's something that they've been speaking out about. And they've been talking with the opposing party and their leader, I forget his name, but they've been endorsing him heavily. So for me, it's super ironic, like you said, that like pretty much almost like a week after Panarin made these comments about Putin, now there's this domestic abuse charge on a minor, which is like, I don't know Artemi. I've never met the guy, obviously, but like just from like on the outside, like that doesn't look like his MO like at all, like anything to do with that sort of thing. Like he looks like the type of guy that focuses on hockey, focuses on his family, and he knows what he wants, and that's why he's in the NHL. But I don't want to get too much into like the political aspect. It's just kind of like strange that we live in a world now where like, your homeland's like president or ruler or leader, whatever you got going on in your country, can just put out a hit piece on you and just make something up because you don't agree with what they have going on. Like,
it's crazy, man.
It's super scary. And like, we were seeing that sort of stuff with Trump. Like, obviously we don't have that in Canada, but like, it's super scary to see like world leaders now are like publicly attacking people with fabricated like allegations or reports or stories. Like, it's getting pretty crazy out here to just be alive, man. Not like you could be an athlete, but you could get canceled tomorrow, even though you're not anything. Like, it's just a crazy time we live in now that everybody's just trying to like drum up a story or get into a headline or deflect blame. Like, if Putin was, like the righteous leader he talks about, and, he's the de facto guy for Russia, then you should have no problem with someone speaking out against you because you'd be like, look at my work. Like, I don't need to talk to you about what you think. You can go endorse this guy. That's completely fine. My work will speak for itself. But clearly he can't do that. So now he's making hit pieces. And it's just sad, man, because the Rangers weren't having the best of time this year anyways. And he's their best player. So it just all comes at a time that sucks. And like, he was playing pretty good, but he wasn't playing at his best. So like, I think it's good for him to kind of get away and clear his head for a bit and just, make sure his family's okay. Because I think from what I read, a lot of his family are still in Russia. Mm-hmm. So it's a dicey situation, but we just hope that everything's okay and we get back to seeing him on the ice and putting the puck in the net. Yeah,
definitely. And the same thing I said before with Tiger, like some things are bigger than sports, and this separates the game from, what's going on in his personal life. It's crazy, man. Like right now, like the fact that, I'm sure you've seen the memes, Jake, but there's like memes, there's like everything there's TikToks, there's everything, videos talking about how like, and I don't know if these are all true before I start saying this stuff, but like I heard rumors about like an ice hockey league that Putin is in, that like people are scared to like, defend him, or like goalies will let him score on them because he doesn't want to like get like, it's the president or,
No, that happened at the KHL All-Star game.
Yeah, the KHL, like just different things like that.
I'm pretty sure he plays in the KHL All-Star game every year.
Yeah, and they just let him win. They just let his team win every time.
Like it's
so the Rangers pretty much, this is their statement. Artemi unequivocally denies all allegations in this fabricated story. This is clearly an intimidation tactic being used against him for being outspoken on recent political events. Artemi is obviously shaken and concerned and will use this time away from the team to be with family. The Rangers fully support him and will work with him to identify the source of these unfounded allegations. So it sounds like he certainly has the support of the team And it almost sounds like this is the quote from the team that they're like super shocked too, and they just like want to have his back as much as they can.
Yeah, man, they should, because this is, to me, this is a hit piece, man. Like, if you want to talk about like a North American like cancel type like story, like this is it. Like a minor abuse on a female, like it just does, like, to me. And I don't, obviously we don't know, and I don't want to de facto say like he didn't do it or whatever, but like I just have a hard time with the way things are going, and just seeing how it's been playing out over the last little bit, and going back and reading that any of the stories that Putin's saying are true, or the whoever brought out the allegations, like obviously some sort of government official was probably behind this and like getting this piece out there to the masses.
Exactly. Somebody
right?
did it. Somebody said something, right? I mean, like I said, it's the timeliness of it, Jake. Like the quotes happen of how he spoke out about him, how he spoke out about Putin, right? His family speaking out about him, and then all of a sudden this just drops. It's kind of like if somebody was like, you were pissing somebody off, and all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, somebody just found something out about you and started spreading it. It's kind of a real weird timing that someone's trying to cancel you a week or two after you said something about them. You know, it's just like, even if he did it, and again, we're not making any assumptions ourselves, the time of all this happening is just really weird. And nobody can really, how can anybody even deny that? Nobody can.
And it's just like, yeah, man, it just, to me, it's just kind of like depressing. It's like, fuck, man, like, who cares if he doesn't like you, man? I don't understand what this obsession is that everybody's like, I need to be liked by everybody. It's like, this guy doesn't believe in what you're doing. Like, he's one single person, and he's one single family, like in terms of the people that are collective in his family. If you've been the leader of Russia for this long, like, you shouldn't have a worry. It's just one guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's one family that's speaking out about you. Like, it's just, yeah, man, it's just a crazy time. And I want to get past like this sort of like cancel, like allegation stuff. It's like, you can be wrong and not have to make it seem like somebody else's work just worse, just to make it seem like, you know, what you did isn't as bad. Or like, it's just, yeah, man, it's just crazy. I don't want to dive into too much, because like it goes, there's a lot of
we'll keep
things
updating it, right? We'll keep updating it.
It's for me, it's outside of like Artemi and like Putin. Like, there's a lot of like stuff that goes on like within our city in terms of like race and culture that, like, you know, people speak out and like you just don't get hurt, or like someone will, like, the bar like will make like a comment back, and like somehow like that's the story that gets picked up instead of like, you know, like the abuse or like police brutality. Like, it's just, for me, it's like a touchy subject, because I know, like, I don't know personally how it feels, but I've like seen it play out in our city when stuff like happens and then somehow stuff gets thrown back onto you and the original story gets lost. But it's just a weird one. And I hope that we just kind of like blow past this and we get to see, like I said, Artemi back out on the ice and hopefully turn the New York Rangers around, man. Because a lot of people had them as one of the most exciting teams to watch this year. They had Lafreniere, you know, the goalies, young guys. The team was relatively young, but they've been just kind of, you know, depressing, and it's going to be shitty without their best player.
Their division is already crazy enough, man. Now they're without their best player. We wish him the best and hope to see him back on the ice soon. After this short break, Carson Wentz is headed to the Colts to play for Indianapolis. And really, really excited to hear what Jake has to say about that move. Munchie's HFX is located at 1840 Vernon Street, providing you several exotic snacks and sodas. Munchie's HFX is also Atlantic Lottery certified, so you make sure to stop by and grab all your pro line and lottery needs. Check out Munchie's Convenience on Instagram at Munchie's HFX and stay up to date with all their latest products. One last thing here, one last kind of category to dive into, certainly not the least. Jake, I'll just hand it over to you, man. The rant is all yours. Wentz packed his bags. He's ready to go. He's ready to find himself again. Man, all of the news about him was just so funny during the season. I don't like Wentz very much, and I don't think you do either.
I want to start off by saying, so I'll give a timeline. I've been one of Carson Wentz's biggest believers. Like, at the start of the year, like, I caught so much shit from you guys for being like, no, it's all right. Like, he'll figure it out. Like, he's fine, man. It's the offensive line. We don't have any receivers. Every excuse in the book, man.
For the record, I was a Foles guy. For the record.
Man,
back then anyway.
I honestly might have told you were an idiot for saying that, bro. At the time, I probably very well did, because I used to believe Wentz was like, before Mahomes came along, I thought Wentz was going to be the next heir to the throne in terms of quarterbacks, athleticism, arm power, like head IQ, like everything he was doing was just showing me. And like the MVP season he was having, I was super excited. And then we got to this year, things didn't start out the best. Rumblings in the locker room, and then obviously the Jalen Hurts getting drafted in the offseason, and then he gets thrown in like the last like 4 games or whatever. Plays, some people say he played pretty well. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback yet. I think he might be a backup, like a fringe starter for a career person. I don't really like the arm strength. I know he makes good throws, and I know he has pretty good accuracy, and he has the legs to run. I think you need a game changer at quarterback right now in the NFL, and I don't think Jalen Hurts is an absolute game changer. But for me, I just think Wentz is like the biggest bitch, like the biggest Madonna, like the biggest just like just a waste man, bro. Like the guy's the worst. Like I get.
Tell us how you really feel. Keep it going.
Dude,
Keep it going.
I get like what makes me frustrated is you were like, yeah, man, it's either me or the coach. And like they fucking fired Doug Peterson. That guy has a statue outside the stadium already, and he got fired for you to stay. Whatever you need, Carson. You want to help us pick the coach? Let's go get us a coach that you like. We'll even go hire a guy that's like, you know what? We'll start Wentz for the season just to see how it goes, because that's what Nick Caserio is, man. He probably said that, I'll start Wentz at the start of the season if that's what you guys want. If he plays, half decent through camp. So you get all that done, and then you still sit there, pout, moan, and bitch because you sucked and still want to get traded. And you get traded to the Colts, which good for you, because that's honestly a better team than we are right now. So, like, kudos to you for going to a better situation. But still, fuck you, man. Like, you just left us high and dry off of one bad season. And I get it was a bad season. Play calling was fucked up. The defense wasn't good. We were missing key parts. But, like, man up. Like, suck it up. We just signed you to a huge deal. Huge deal. All this dead cap, all this shit that we got going on to keep you here and show you that you're our guy. And you just still want to leave. And to me, I'm so happy that Michael Pittman didn't give him his jersey number. I hope he doesn't. To me, that would be like, if I was Wentz, that would be the wake up moment. Like, oh shit, these guys think I'm a pussy.
Yeah.
Because usually in the NFL, if you're a quarterback and you go to a new team and you have any sort of clout to your name, like any sort, you could probably be a top 20 QB in the league. If you go to a new team and someone has your jersey number, chances are you're going to be able to work something out to get it. Michael Pittman said, no, man, that's my number.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Make him wear something else. Make him prove himself. Don't let this guy walk into your team and be like, I'm the man now. Like, I want this number. This is how we're going to run the offense, and this is how we're going to do things. Because this is all the reports that we got in Philadelphia, that he thought he was the de facto leader of the team. He thought that he could just change the play calls at the line from what Doug Peterson was calling. He thought he knew everything. He didn't want to take any criticism. And to me, these are all traits that are super hard to break. Go into the Colts, go into a new scene, go into a fresh faces and team. That doesn't change who you are as a person. And if that's who he is as a person, he's not going to succeed in Indianapolis either.
I don't use the word ain't ever. You've known me my whole life. I don't use the word ain't.
The
Carson
fact you said
ain't shit.
The fact
Carson,
you said ain't, that might be the first time you've ever said that.
Carson ain't shit.
Yeah, that guy
the whole
sucks.
time you're talking about egos. You're talking about getting the number that you want. Even hearing you say all this stuff is like, damn, I can't believe he's even thinking that this stuff might even happen. Like, to me, like, I don't really like him at all. And I know you used to, but like, he's completely fallen off from you. But like, I don't like it, man. Like, I don't like what he stands for. I don't like what there's just so many guys in the league that just can be anything you can do, I can do better. Like, like you said, like when you talked about Mahomes and talked about his certain style of play, one thing I got to give him credit for, he's a tough bastard. Like,
he'll take a hit.
He's not a pussy on the field. He's a pussy off the field.
Yeah. So one thing that I talked about to start the interview is how mentally put together Brett Lauther was. I thought, from a mental standpoint, I thought, like, he was one of the most mentally built people I've had the chance to speak to that I didn't already know. Like off the rip, that was something I gained from him. I never got the chance to speak to Carson Wentz, obviously, but just from the outside and hearing things, like this guy seems mentally frail. And for me, like we'll jump into the compensation now, because I can sit here all night and just rip on this guy and repeatedly call him an idiot and tell him he sucks. But in terms of compensation, like we got a second and a second rounder, a conditional second rounder next year and a third rounder this year. So the conditional second rounder goes to a first if Wentz plays, I think 75% of the snaps he plays 75% of the games, or he plays 70% of the snaps on the season. So I don't think that the Colts are going to bring in any sort of competition for Carson Wentz, because obviously that didn't work in Philadelphia. So I feel like that's an automatic first round pick that's going to be going to us next year. My big fear is we can't fucking draft for shit. Like, we're so bad at the draft, man. The fact that we had 4 practice squad receivers starting in a game last year, and that year and the year previous, somehow we missed out on Justin Jefferson and DK Metcalf.
Crazy, man.
And we were crying for receivers. We got Jalen Reagor, bro. That dude's like 5'7" hamster. All he's got is just wheels, but he doesn't do anything. JJ Arthega-Whiteside, that guy's a bum. They're talking about getting him more involved in the year coming up.
yeah.
It's like,
let's get into the Colts, though, just real quick before we end the show.
Oh, my God.
The Colts, you're slamming the Eagles, right? You're making fun of Carson, and you're saying good for him for moving on to a better team. I'm saying bad for the Colts for getting this guy. The Colts are like making a name for themselves for picking up has-beens, not going to be. It's ridiculous. I mean, they pick up some guy that's better at making babies than he is at football. And then they pick up Carson Wentz. Come on, man.
This guy said Phillip Rivers was better at making babies than playing football. Damn, bro.
Come on, man.
You might have a point. I'm
just saying.
I get it.
That's a bad move from the Colts, bro. I don't like that.
I think personally they were super in on Stafford. I think that was their guy. Wentz, all the reports of Wentz being their guy, I don't think that was really their guy. I think that was option 2 or 3 maybe. But I think Stafford was plan A all the way. I think he fit their style perfectly. He's a gunslinger. He knows how to move the chains. He's smart. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's a really good player. For me, I just think that the Colts had to weigh who was out there in the draft at their selection, or what possibilities there was to move up.
Yeah.
Or what other trade options were out there that made sense for them schematically.
Let me ask you this, though, Jake. Is it a gamble? Is this a gamble? Because they already gambled with Rivers, though. It's back-to-back gambles.
Rivers was a free agent, so it was a little different. I don't know how much Rivers got paid off the top of my head. I honestly can't remember. But this is a way bigger gamble than Rivers, because we talked about, like, I think it was maybe 3 episodes ago, how important NFL draft picks are. Like, every round matters in the NFL, man. It's crazy. Every round matters. So the fact that we might have a first round pick next year and a third round pick this year, like, we could turn those into 2 serviceable players. For the Colts, the draft picks for me to them don't mean much, because for the next 2 to 4 or 5 years, I think that they think they're ready to compete for a Super Bowl. They were just missing a quarterback. So Frank Reich has that experience with Carson Wentz. They have that relationship. They have the rapport and familiarity. So I think this was just kind of like, after Stafford, this was like the easy only option, and they had to pursue it. And I don't think they overpaid for what Stafford went for. Obviously, Stafford's way better than Wentz right now. But I think that it was a fair deal. The Eagles were holding out for a first, so the conditional second going into a first is really likely, unless Wentz gets hurt, which, knock on wood, like, I hate the guy, but I hope he doesn't get hurt at all again. We've seen 2 injuries for him that, like, really messed up his career. So I, like, as much as I hate the dude, I want to see him healthy and be on the field and suck. Like, I don't want to see him out with an injury.
Stay healthy and just play horribly.
Yeah, exactly, bro. But it's going to be an interesting year for the Colts, man. The AFC South is wide open, man. Tennessee obviously is going to be really good again, but they've had 2 back-to-back seasons where they, in their eyes, they fell short. Texans are going to suck, and Jacksonville's in rebuild mode. So right now, you have a really good chance to win the division, or if not, pick up a wild card spot. And boom, once you're in the dance, anything can happen. We saw with Tampa Bay, like they got kind of hot towards the end of the season, and they just carried that right into the playoffs, man, and they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, it's I'm just curious, man, how it's all going to pan out. I don't really know what to say because, like you said, you want to be healthy, but that division is going to be interesting. That division is a big question mark. Would you say that's one of the more question mark divisions? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think low key, this might be the best division. I won't say the best, one of the most intriguing divisions in terms of quarterbacks, because we're going to have Tannehill, who's been playing amazing. If Watson's still with the Texans, we don't know how that's going to go. But if he's still there, and then we got Wentz, and then we got Trevor Lawrence. Those are 4 pretty young quarterbacks all competing for 2, maybe 2 playoff spots. Usually AFC, you can get in at like 10-6, and I think the Colts can hit 10-6 to get in, no problem.
And I think all those quarterbacks you mentioned aren't afraid to like make a splash in their own way. Obviously, we haven't even seen Trevor Lawrence in the NFL, but there'll be some competitive games between those 2 teams. Yeah. But in the summer and in the next couple of weeks, up to the draft and everything like that, we'll break down these divisions. We'll definitely continue with the NFL talk in future episodes on the Mayflower Sports channel and, of course, the Game of Inches podcast. Guys, don't forget to check out the Life Below Par. Like Jake said, we've been checking out their stuff. It's been great. It's hilarious. And we saw some clips. It's going to be hilarious. So we're recording this before their episode's released, but it should be dropped when you're seeing this video or this podcast right now. And it's definitely some great content. So make sure you guys check that out. And Jake, before we wrap things up, man, any last words?
Yeah, man, we're not going to spoil anything, but huge interview alert coming, bro. Huge interview alert coming, man. Had the time of my life doing that interview the other day. Great guy. Everything I thought he was going to be. I can't wait to get this out, bro. I know you've been super excited about it. We've been just texting back and forth nonstop. You've been sending me clips. We've been just fanboying over the chance to get to talk to this guy. And, you know, a lot of people that don't know about him after this video comes out, whenever we decide to drop it, I think they should look into him because he's a real entrepreneur in his industry, and he really did some things that not a lot of people got to do. And I think the stories that we got to hear from him were absolutely amazing.
And also just the come up, how it's not just easy to make it. You got to work your way into it. If you want a teaser clip from us, if you want some content from us that's not on the podcasting networks, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Mayflower Sports, Twitter, Sports Mayflower, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to be a lot more active on that. And of course, that is Mayflower Sports. Guys, one more episode here in the books, and we'll see you next time here on Game of Inches.
Wentz, you're still a bitch.